Good morning, everyone. Welcome to September's ProPower Hour. My name's Grant Chapman. I work in the advisor marketing team, and I'm your host for today's session. It's great to have you join us on the call today. Before we begin, though, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, where I am here in Sydney, and to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. In today's ProPower Hour, we're going to take a look at some of the ways that automation can help save you time, save you effort, and ultimately help you find some extra hours in your week by looking at the tools, tips and tricks in QuickBooks Online Accountant and QuickBooks Payroll powered by KeyPay. We're going to take a look at the tools that can automate client requests, that can help you manage your work, that can help bookkeepers and accountants work more efficiently together, and that can ensure that you're getting paid on time without spending hours chasing down payments. First, though, just a little bit about us. I'm sure that everyone on the call today is aware of Intuit's flagship product, QuickBooks Online, given that it's used by more than 300,000 accountants and more than 5.1 million small businesses around the world. And I hope that most of you are aware of the functionality in QuickBooks Online Accountants that helps smaller accounting and bookkeeping firms to manage their clients, keep on top of their workflows, help with tracking your time, your billing, and it has a whole host of other features that can help you automate manual and repetitive tasks, and our presenters are going to walk you through some of those today. On the compliance front, you've got QuickBooks Tax powered by Lodgit, which is an online tool that can help you manage your tax and BAS preparation and lodgement needs. We've had hundreds of accounting and bookkeeping firms start using QuickBooks Tax over the last financial year. So if you haven't actually had a look at it yet, I'll tell you how you can get free access to it as part of the QuickBooks ProAdvisor program at the end of the session. Okay, before we get started though, just some very quick housekeeping. Today's event is being recorded, so we'll be providing everyone who has registered with a copy via email. So just watch out for an email in your inbox that will let you review any of the content shared today or to share it with your other team members. If you're having any technical difficulties with not being able to see or hear the presentation, we'd suggest you restart your device, refresh your browser, or try a different device. You can navigate as well to the troubleshooting guide that's located at the bottom of your screen there, which contains a link to an alternate video browser. Again, though, you will receive a recording of the session, which may not be quite as good as the real thing, but at least you won't miss anything from the session. When it gets to demo time, if you're struggling to see the screen at any point, we'd recommend you maximize the screen by clicking on the little expand icon that's there on your screen. It does take a couple of moments to render up properly, so if it appears blurry at first, just give it a little moment to clear up. And of course, we will have a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar, so feel free to start adding your questions now using the Slido box that's added in the bottom of your screen there. Right, that's the housekeeping out of the way, so let's jump into today's session. Today you're going to hear from Tish Bhagwandeen. Tish has more than 12 years experience, financial experience, and has an in-depth understanding of business, from managing and growing startup enterprises through to taking care of the daily financial requirements of companies. As a chartered accountant, Tish has global experience that spans a variety of industries, having worked previously in the United States and in South Africa. After working as a financial auditor, Tish transitioned her career towards that of a group financial controller in the financial services sector. After successfully transitioning the company to sale on the ASX, she's co-founded In Finance Solutions. Tish is really all about the numbers and really loves working with people and with small businesses to help them achieve their business goals. She's also a member of the Intuit QuickBooks Trainer Writer Network. We have Denise Twigger here as well. Denise is a BAS agent, a bookkeeper, and the founder and director of BAS and Balances. And like Tish, she's a member of the QuickBooks Trainer Writer Network. With more than 20 years experience in the industry, Denise is really passionate about helping small businesses to get set up with the most up-to-date systems that they can use to stay compliant, to save time, and to save money while they're running their businesses. A little bit later, you're going to hear from David Burnett as well. David's going to talk to you about some of the automation features in QuickBooks Payroll powered by KeyPay. David works in the advisor team here at Intuit, has more than 15 years experience in customer marketing across a wide variety of sectors, including financial services, telecommunications, and insurance. Okay, that's all of the housekeeping we have. I'm going to hand over to Tish. Thanks.
Thanks, Grant. So when I was first asked to do this Power Hour, I thought before we take a dive into the functionality of what QuickBooks actually offers, it might be worthwhile setting the scene and discussing automation overall. From my perspective, there's actually two levels of automation, and that's one, automation that we are trying to achieve within our own businesses as professionals, but also there's automation that we're trying to achieve for our clients to help them run their businesses efficiently. So I'll predominantly be addressing from an accountant or bookkeeper perspective, what are the functionalities within QuickBooks where we can achieve that automation and efficiency. And then I'll hand you over to Denise, who will take a look at more granular level of functionality in terms of a client perspective, how we can help our clients achieve that efficiency. And you might find that some of the items that Denise discusses are things that we might implement in our own business as well. So from an advisor perspective, really at the end of the day, what's paramount to me is I'm trying to service my clients more efficiently. And for me, that means having standardized work processes, but also achieving transparency across my team. And how do I do that in my practice? Well, predominantly, I look at workflows in QuickBooks. So very early on in my practice, when I was looking at a way to standardize my processes and help my teams work more efficiently, to service the clients, I came across Work. And from when I initially started using Work to now, there's been some additional functionality that has been built in. However, the overarching concepts still remain the same. So today we'll be looking at that additional functionality and how do we tailor it for our business to achieve that efficiency. The first thing you need to do to be able to use Work to its maximum abilities is make sure your team members are all invited into QuickBooks. They have client access as well as access into the software. That's paramount to everything, of course. Once we have ensured that, we can look at what Work actually does for us. So workflow actually helps me get that visibility in a time frame of the open items across my clients. You'll notice that there's a few filters at the top, which means I can filter it by clients, I can filter it by individual team members, or I can filter it by types of work. So it really depends on what level of visibility I'm looking at within my firm, and I can get that across a timeline. Once we have that, one of the ideal things that are built into QuickBooks is really creating and managing templates. So we talk a lot about efficiency and standardization. And one of the things that we want to ensure is that any task that is repetitive is built into workflow. And if something is repetitive, then across the entire team, you want to ensure that every person is doing the same process. And we are able to achieve this by using and managing our templates. Now, one of the things that QuickBooks does have is based on their industry experience and working across many accountants and small businesses, is they've actually designed templates for you and built that into the software. So if you're a new accountant and you're looking to start automating some of your processes and standardizing it, you don't actually have to start writing that process from scratch. You can have a look at the template that's built into QuickBooks. And if that suits your purposes for that point in time, you are able to actually pull that template in, assign that work to a client, bring a team member across to it, and so start standardizing your work. I'm sure we've all had that situation where we have a number of queries that we have to send out to clients at month end or year end, and we're mostly just trading emails across with them. And we have such a flurry of emails that 90% of the time it's getting lost. And then we remember we have to go back and follow up on a client. Well, I'm glad to say with QuickBooks, that nightmare is actually over. QuickBooks does have what I like to refer to as a client portal. And this one you can utilize to actually document your client requests. Now, it has a couple of nifty functionalities that I quite enjoy. One is I am actually able to set a due date for my client, so I can tell my client quite subtly, hey, this is the date I actually require the information by. I also have the ability to attach documentation. So if you're looking at a larger query or you want to send through a working paper to your client, instead of sending that off as a separate email, you can use the client request functionality, attach your documentation, and send it over to your clients. This then also gets tracked through your workflow. So really what you're starting to do is standardize your processes, achieve that transparency, and have that central point of communication with regards to workflow and queries with your clients, which for me is really great because I never have to go digging into my emails and work out, well, what was the last follow-up that I did with my client? I can simply log into QuickBooks and get that update quite instantaneously. So we mentioned earlier that QuickBooks has some templates that are built into it. And if you're starting out your practice at a base level and you want to keep things quite simplistic, I think those templates are a great way to make sure that you're covering off on all your compliance and your requirements. But if you find, well, your firm is starting to hit that growth stride and maybe your processes need to be a little bit more detailed, or you're doing a little bit more for your clients and increasing your scope, what I love is that you have the ability to customize your templates within QuickBooks. Essentially, what you can do is if you want to keep the base template the same, you can copy that over and then start adding, and you'll notice that there's a little highlight at the bottom to add a task. So you can start adding in tasks to start tailoring your processes to your firm. So that's it from me in terms of an overview of how to use the functionality and work within QuickBooks. I'll now hand you over to Denise, who will address automation from a client level.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Tish. And again, thank you, QuickBooks, for allowing us to provide our tips and tricks today for the amazing people out there in the world. So as Tish mentioned, I will be bringing in the more of the ground level day-to-day prospect of touching briefly on the bookkeeping practice, but more about the getting that client automation, because as a bookkeeper, I really love my source documents. So my clients are all well driven that if you're spending $1 or $1 million, I really want to see that transaction, because the journey starts with the receipt. So how do we grab that receipt from our client? It's also for the same ourselves in bookkeeping practice as well. So just a note with the customizing of the templates, these are brilliant when you're doing your end of process checklists. You can have these also for your day-to-day checklists. So if there's a checklist that you need where you're chasing up bank statements, you might be doing a weekly review for a client, you might be doing weekly bookkeeping for them. I noticed that with a lot of people moving to cloud solutions now, we've gone to the days of doing bookkeeping on a quarterly basis for your clients. It's very much a day-to-day, we can package up what we're doing. We know that the cloud solutions are going to bring in the data every day. We know that QuickBooks, the bank feed's going to appear in there. But that's more the icing on the cake with the bank feeds. Let's drill it right back down to start with that receipt, the journey of the receipt. So how many of you do use the mobile app? I'm actually going to jump over to a mobile app now for us. So what we're going to be looking at here, and I apologise for the people out here who are Android users, this is actually an iPhone perspective. We are going to be using the dictation feature today. So that's something that you can really show your clients as well. So we find that we deal predominantly with trades and services, and those guys are absolutely hopeless when it comes to being really consistent of their time. They're really busy running their business. They don't understand. They think they'll do their quotes at night, they'll be fine. But did you know that if you whipped out your mobile app, jump on the QuickBooks app, by clicking on the More button, you can actually open up this beautiful shortcut screen, and one of the shortcuts is Quote. So work with me, everybody. Jump on your mobile app, download the QuickBooks app. It's the same login and password as what you'd use to log on to your normal QuickBooks device. And the other thing as well, for the accounting and bookkeeping firms out there, when you're on the mobile app, if you click on the top left little dongle, that's like a little profile pic, that actually opens up every one of your practices, every one of your clients. So if you've got a client that's struggling and you need to access their data file really quickly, or you might be on site showing them how to take a photograph using the receipt capture app, you can flip open your phone, click on the app of QuickBooks, and really simply show them the processes of being able to take a photograph, receipt it in. When you get to the quote side of QuickBooks, you can dictate that. The tradies love it because they will pull out their pens and paper, and I don't know about you, but when it comes to deciphering what a tradie writes, it's really very difficult. So, and also if they have to decipher that back into the office and have a person in admin who's trying to decipher their handwriting, could you imagine a 7 being converted to a 2 or a 1 being looked at? It could throw out a quote. It could throw out the cash flow. A lot of problems could easily transition just because you can't decipher someone's handwriting. You know what? Dictaphone it. So you might find that you need to go into your settings, and if you're not sure about your settings, Google it. Google are amazing with that sort of stuff, and they will step you through. You'll get a bit of advice on how to step through. Usually with the iPhones and the smartphones, when you start to use the microphone or the camera the first time, you usually get that prompt to say, would you like to enable this feature? And then away you go. So by dictating a quote for a tradie, it is an absolute game. It's a game changer. It's a seller. They are absolutely blown away about the amount of time that they're going to save. As long as they speak clearly and precisely, the phone get that boring monotone going, which I absolutely hate, but it works best with dictation. So nice and slow, bit of a monotone. See, I can't even do it. I just can't monotone. Sorry, it's not in my blood, but that's why I'm not a tradie. So you guys get out there and have a go with it, because it's amazing when your clients are, you know, they like to have a chat to the mate at the pub. Pick your time of when you do it. It's a really cool feature. And as I said to a bunch of people at QuickBooks in Sydney, if you're not using or familiar with the power of the mobile app, especially if you've got rideshare drivers, it's got a mileage app embedded in it. They're going to walk into your firm and say that they've heard about this amazing app. Their mate at the pub was showing them how quickly they could take a photograph of a receipt. Or could you imagine getting a phone call, walking outside, 5 minutes later, you're back indoors again, or not even 2 minutes. I doubt even if their drink would have gone warm in that stage. And they've done a quote. The client's received the quote. The beauty about doing it within the app, it stays in the app. So have a go, have a play with it. Show the client the app, show the client mileage, show the client how to do receipt capture. And again, because in QuickBooks, when we're asking that client for that receipt or the capture of the receipt, we want to be able to show them how easily it is for them to just take the photograph. And our job's almost done already. So let's just so that's just the iPhone look, the way that it looks. So the first screen, it's pretty much what so I'm just going to follow with the slides here. Sorry, guys. So it's showing pretty much what it looks like. And once you've downloaded the app with the Android and the Apple, I believe, please don't shoot me for giving the wrong information, I believe that the app is very, very similar. So the feature that you'll see in the middle section where the shortcuts are, it's what you'll see. So you notice in the first photograph there, we've got the More button. So that'll open up to the second screen, which are your shortcuts screen. And from there, I've basically gone from a quote, I've dictaphoned it. So you can just see how easy, you can almost dictaphone the whole quote. Obviously, when it comes to the value, you need to punch those numbers in. But could you imagine doing a big quote and just by dictaphoning it, it'll just read with you, and then you can make any changes that it might have just accidentally popped through. So you can see on the third photo there, you've actually got two areas where you can easily click on the microphone on the bottom of your screen, on the bottom of your keyboard, and just slowly dictaphone. Look, your client's going to love it. They can do it in sales as well. They can also dictaphone the description of a receipt. Sorry, you're going to love me for that one. Okay. So I know that Tish did touch briefly on the book side of Books Review. So when it comes to the Books Review with the practice, we get a lot of bookkeepers sort of asking me, how do we get that less? So that what Books Review is, it's like an end checklist of what's left over, what hasn't been coded, what's maybe slipped through the system without a GST code on it. That sort of, it's like a checklist that we ask QuickBooks guys to write, and they did it and they put it in product. It's a feature that you can avoid along the way. So generally we find that transactions to review will be your transfers, where you're probably never worried about putting a description or a payee in there. So it's little things like that. Just go back through your rules again and just check your rules, because you might have had an old transfer rule that's not picked up the description or who the payee is, and that's obviously going to come across into Books Review. So if you're wondering how to shorten your Books Review, just when it comes to that first step, just have a little bit of time in there. And I'm, with that, going to hand back to Tish, and she's going to show you guys how to wrap it up.
Sorry, I've made a bit of a rookie mistake then. I took myself off mute. Thanks for that, Denise. Books Review is really, I think, a great functionality. It keeps you standardized, and again, it's giving you that transparency. But one of the things that I think connects really great to that is the prep for tax functionality. And if as an accountant or even a bookkeeper, because most people tend to think prep for taxes and they ring fence it to the tax agent or the accountant, it's a tool that bookkeepers can use to collaborate with accountants. And if you haven't started using it already, I highly recommend this functionality. So you can see up on screen, we have a bit of a screenshot of what the prep for taxes looks like. And as we saw with the work templates, Prep for Taxes actually has a pre-built checklist for you. Now, if you're using the workflow, you might not want to use this checklist. You might want to build it all into your workflow. But again, over here, you have the opportunity to actually tailor this to wherever your business processes are. And again, once you do that, you're basically standardizing and automating your process across every tax return, whether it be an individual, company, trust, etc. The handy thing within Prep for Taxes is if you are using QBO Tax or Logit, you have the Export to Logit button. So once you finalize your accounts within QuickBooks, you can simply export out to Logit and continue with your tax work inside that software. So I thought another handy thing to cover is what are some of the automations that we get within Logit. And for me, one of the big ones is just the automation around sending reminders. We all know we finalize a tax return and we send it out to clients, and then we have to follow up on signatures. Well, now Logit, that nightmare is actually a thing of the past. Once you send off the tax return for signature to the client, it actually has automatic reminders built in, and you can set the frequency with how you want to remind or at which you want to remind your clients. For me personally, I find every 5 days is something that works, because by the same time, I don't want to be reminding them too frequently and then it starts ending up in their spam or my client starts feeling a little bit anxious. We want to give them enough time to actually review that tax return or that BAS return. Another handy thing is, if you're like me, I'm sure you have tons of clients saying, can I please have my outcome of assessment? Well, now Logit and QBO Tax have actually built that into the software. So within your settings, if you tick the automatically send outcome of assessment to clients, once the outcome of assessment has been finalized by the ATO and the tax return has been processed, your clients will get a copy of this. So I find that, again, it's just cutting down that one task that I have to do, and it's automating a process that, I'm probably going to do that one task 5 minutes across 20 or 30 clients a month. So when you actually start accumulating that time, you start achieving the efficiency. If you are using QuickBooks with Logit, you will notice that when you want to import your BAS return, so using Books Review and Prep for Taxes within software to finalize the financial numbers is really handy. And once you log into the Logit software itself, you will notice that there's a QuickBooks icon, and clicking on that icon actually directly imports the data from QuickBooks. So there's no manual errors, there's no transposition of numbers. Again, it's cutting down that one additional step. And if you have finalized everything, signed it off and closed your books within QuickBooks, you simply just import the numbers into the tax software. So one of the things that people frequently ask me with regards to automation and using workflows and different software is, how do they actually centralize everything? And one of the things that tends to fall through the cracks is actually once you finalize that tax return and that BAS return, it's then generating that invoice. And very often I tell people, build that as part of your workflow. If it is not recurring work and you don't build in a recurring invoice, I would say build that as part of your workflow. Have yourself actually tick that off, because that's going to ensure that if you finalize that tax return, hey, we all want to get paid, let's generate that invoice and send it off to the client. If you find that then you are doing a large volume of tax returns and just generating a manual invoice might not be the most efficient way for you to do it, then my recommendation would be there are third-party apps out there that are tailored for accountants and tax agents, and I would start looking into that. Because essentially when we start thinking automation and efficiency, what we're actually trying to achieve is, yes, we want to be efficient now and we want to automate our processes now, but I would also encourage you to start thinking about, take stock of where my practice is at. And I think just coming out of year end, or being the first quarter out of year end, is probably the ideal time to do that. What was tax season like for you? What was financial reporting like for you? If you were a bookkeeper, what were your major pain points? Use that to project, well, where do I think I'm going to be in 9 months or another 12 months? And try and assess your needs based on what your current pain points are. And you'll find that what you might want to be doing is thinking, well, I am looking to grow in the next 12 months. And if I want to grow by 50% of my revenue in the next 12 months, what do I need to look at putting in my firm now to support that growth? And the number one thing that you can do for your firm to support growth is automation. If you can standardize your processes, everybody knows what they're doing across the board. When you're ready to take on those 5 or 10 more clients at a very rapid pace, you have everything documented and you're almost training yourself like a well-oiled machine. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to take stock of where you're at, look at what your goals are and how does this automation actually fit into that. And also, if your goal is, well, I'm happy with my revenue base, I'm not planning for growth, I just want to resolve some of the pain points that I've experienced, then you can assess it from that perspective. So those are some of my key pointers on automation and efficiency within QuickBooks. I will now hand you over to David.
Thanks, Tish. Very nice to have everybody online today for this great Pro Power Hour. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to take you through some of the automations in QuickBooks Payroll. So look, I appreciate automation. For some, can be quite a techie word and possibly a little overbearing. But look, put simply, for the most part, automations is about setting something up once and then letting the software do its job and making it easy for you and saving you a lot of time. Look, certainly it wasn't that long ago where from a payroll point of view, it was a very arduous job, very time consuming, whether you're collecting timesheets manually at your client's offices or getting Excel spreadsheets. But with great cloud software like ours today, it can be very set up very simply to connect to the ATO. And then you can save a lot of time with some simple automations, which I'll take you through today. And then we'll have a look at automating a payroll as well. Now, quickly, just before I start, if you have any questions, please put them in Slido for anything you've seen so far from Tish and Denise or from Grant, and anything in the next few slides that I'll be offering, please chuck them in Slido and we'll look to get to them as best we can at the end of the presentation. So what can be automated in QuickBooks Payroll? So when it comes to the first one, look, payroll and super calculations, once you set the rules for an employee, so they're on an award rate or there's an agreement in place, once you've done that, we'll connect the timesheet data they're submitting in WorkZone and flow that through into QuickBooks Payroll and then into QuickBooks Online, and it'll calculate all the tax, all the super, all the pay entitlements that you need. So real nice, simple first one off there. When it comes to the next one, automations in award interpretation. Now, this is a fantastic benefit that we have, very unique in market. The other accounting softwares don't provide this, so fantastic that QuickBooks and KeyPay provide this to you. And it's about getting the award rate right, I should say. So once you've selected your employee and the award rate that they're on, you're pretty much ready to go. When that award rate gets updated by Fair Work, it'll be updated on the back end. So you never have to go back to a third-party website to see if that's been updated. It'll all be updated on the back end, so you can be rest assured that you'll be compliant with that employee and that award rate. The next one is timesheets. So when an employee clocks in and out of WorkZone, the fantastic WorkZone app, that will be sent across, and the payroll manager, whether that's yourself if you're managing it fully outsourced for your clients, or if there's someone in-house, they'll be notified to approve it. And from there, it'll be sent across to QuickBooks Payroll to finalize the pay run, and then into QuickBooks Online to your general ledger. So really nice seamless movement there from the employee all the way through to whoever's managing and processing the payroll. The next one up here is pay strip distribution. So something that I'm sure over the years that we've all been involved in, where you've got to email someone to get a copy of a pay slip. All that's sort of gone here, where simply you can set up notifications for employees. So if they want to be notified by text or email, notifications through the app, that'll be set up automatically. And then they can go in and view that at any point. They don't have to email you or the payroll manager asking for it. So if they're trying to get a loan of some variety and they need the most 2 recent pay slips, they can sort themselves out. So really nice time saver there. When it comes to leave request calculations, so our software, we cater for all leave entitlement scenarios, so part-time work, casual work, and of course full-time work. And the accrual entitlements really only need to be set up once, and then from then on, the automation does the rest. When it comes to reporting, at the end of the pay cycle, if there's a particular report that you like to produce and provide to someone internally or to your client, you can set that up to run automatically every time you need it. So monthly, quarterly, every pay cycle. Set it up once and forget about it, and it's all done for you. And then the next one is around termination calculation. So no doubt, look, when it comes to payout of entitlements, whether it's redundancy or resignation, there's a lot to consider. The best thing is, look, QuickBooks Payroll will sort all of that out for you. So what's pre-tax, or not taxed, what is included, and then anything else the ATO require, all of that will be calculated for you, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Then the last one is around splitting the earnings by location. So for auto paid salary employees, you can split the earnings by location. So great for taking advantage of maybe government funding that might be available in one region or area but not in another, or great for management report. If you're looking at comparing costs, two sites and what's more profitable, you can split those salary employees by a percentage to know what site is doing better than others. So they're the main sort of 8 items that you can automate in QuickBooks Payroll. And I'll quickly take you through what is effectively a 3-step process to automate a payroll. So the first one here, when you're in the payroll settings in the system, is looking at setting the frequency. So when's the first pay run going to be? When's the last one, if I'm going to make it stop at all? And then selecting there whether you're bringing in timesheets. So if they're salaried employees, that wouldn't be related there, but for everybody else, timesheets are required. So I'm selecting that there. Then going on to step 2, and this is referred to as warnings and notifications. So this is a process to set up if you want to stop the automations and when to stop it. So for example, if somebody hasn't submitted all the details in a timesheet, that would be a reason to stop the automation. If they've got leave outstanding, or maybe the leave that they've requested goes outside the pay period that you've set up, that's a reason to stop the payroll. So just a few tick boxes there to set it up for when to stop, and then a notification to say who needs to be told about this so we can set it back up again and fix the problem. And then lastly, just finalising the payment. Do you want to do it immediately? There's always the option to do it manually if you'd prefer. And same with submitting that, exporting that data into the journal. So you can have that set up immediately. So one day after the pay runs can be completed, you can have that immediately exported to your journals, or if you want, again, you can do it manually. And similar with payslips, which we just spoke about, where you can set it up for immediately that the employees will be notified they can collect their payslips, or the day after. It's up to you how you set that. And that's it, simply checking those details are correct, and you've got an automated pay run set up there. So they're the main ones I'll set you through today. I'll pass you back on to Grant and the team. Have a good afternoon.
Amazing. Thanks, David. Thanks, Tish, Denise, for those tips. We've covered a whole bunch of ground today, looking at some of the tools that are available to you, ready to really jump in and start using right now in QuickBooks Online Accountant, in QuickBooks Tax, in our payroll solution powered by KeyPay. But they're only really scratching the surface. Automating those workflows really is all about creating capacity. That's capacity for you to grow, capacity to attract new clients, to add additional services. It's capacity to build a lifestyle business if that's what you're after, capacity to work on really whatever your goals are. Even if they're just reducing, much as Tish said, just reducing the time that you spend on those tedious manual processes so that you're really only doing the work that you enjoy doing. Automation is going to boost your operational efficiency. When you automate those common workflows, it really means that you've got to spend less time on data entry, other manual processes. It frees up that time that you and your team can then dedicate to more pressing priorities or more important business development activities. You'll instantly be making better use of your team's skills and their time, boosting their productivity, but you're also boosting their engagement. After all, if you're getting those repetitive, boring tasks off their desks, it frees them up to do more of the work that they want to be doing. It reduces human error. Automation means that you're defining processes based on how you work to really create reliable, repeatable, tested workflows that take care of those tasks in a really consistent manner and by the book. It ensures those consistent accounting and bookkeeping practices. And look, there's definitely more than one way to skin a cat, and I'm sure that you'll admit that you and your team do things differently. There might even be some discrepancies in the way different members of your team work. and how they get things done. Those differences don't generally cause issues until a team member leaves or until a new one joins. And that's why having a standard process can save time and really increase the amount that you can get done across your team during particularly busy BAS and tax preparation lodgement time. It also ensures that clients receive a consistent service, no matter who in the team is preparing their work. So that's really important for a boutique firm, as it reduces the reliance on the principal or the sole partner to control the quality of service. When you're looking at tools like Books Review and QuickBooks Online Accountant, they really allow you to do that, to create that single repeatable process for your BAS preparation workflow, customized to how you work. As with any new process though, it's best to start small before you start to move on to more complex automations. But fortunately, there's, like we've said today, a range of really great automation tools that are right out of the box in QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Online Accountant, QuickBooks Tax powered by Logit, and in our payroll solution powered by KeyPay. Now, those tools can help you work with your clients to automate their processes so that you're getting the data you need when you need it. They can help you automate regular tasks like reports or invoice reminders that are saving you time and getting you paid on time. And then there's tools in QuickBooks Tax that can automate data entry, reducing the risk of errors creeping in, while also cutting down on manual data entry. Okay, so how do you actually make it happen? I guess generally speaking, if you're looking to start automating things, it's generally a 5-step process. First, you want to identify your ideal process. You should really start by figuring out, okay, what processes do I want to automate? Now, not all of your accounting or bookkeeping tasks are built for automation, so you really need to be looking for processes that you're a team member doing on a repetitive and frequent basis, that don't require a high level of human touch and personal connection, and that don't really require a lot of creativity or mental energy. Write down any of those processes that meet those criteria on a list and then pick one to start with. For example, maybe your team is spending a ton of time sending reminders about overdue invoices to your customers and you want to start automating those reminders. As Tish talked about, QuickBooks Online Accountant can do that for you. The second piece is really evaluating your technology. So automation relies on technology, which means that you're going to need the right automation tools in place. There are dedicated automation platforms out there that will link together your existing apps and enable them to basically talk to each other. There's great tools out there like Zapier or Integrify that can link virtually any app that you're using together. QuickBooks Online Accountant, though, has a number of those built-in automation features, and they're a really great way for you to get started. Like I say, starting small and then building is an ideal approach. Automate what really makes sense to you first, in the tool that you use most frequently before you start looking at other platforms. Third, you're going to want to assign a stakeholder. Once you've got an automation set up, it's going to run on its own. That's the beauty of it, but that doesn't mean it should be just left to its own devices. Assigning someone to oversee that automated process is really key. So they're going to serve as your point person. Looking after that automated workflow, making sure it's working correctly. They're going to troubleshoot if errors creep in or problems crop up. And it's a really good idea to have that one person, that one point of contact, so that if they move on, all of the automation tools can then be picked up from a central point. Just make sure that everything is documented as you're building out your automations, and absolutely make sure that you've got all of their login details and passwords. Step 4 is mapping out your workflow. So every workflow that you're going to build, every automation that you're going to build, really needs to identify 3 key things, which are a trigger, an action, and a result. The trigger is just the predefined event that kickstarts the automation. So it's really the first domino in the line. It's, for example, a invoice's due date passing. The action is what happens in response to that trigger. For example, a payment reminder is then sent to the customer. And the result is really the intended goal of this whole process. So in this example, the customer clicks on the reminder email and settles their overdue balance. That's a really simple example, and automated workflows can have numerous triggers, numerous actions or results, and they can become far more complex than that. But for now, just let's stay focused on the basics. The final step is to just test your workflow. So once you've got it set up, give it a quick test just to make sure it's working the way it should. And that'll give you that additional peace of mind so that when you step away and let that automated process run on its own, that you're comfortable it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, a lot of what we've covered today, we go into in more depth in this new ebook. So in it, Shay Thayer, our head of accounting here at Intuit QuickBooks, and Megan Wood, our product marketing lead, provide their top 5 tips for building a more efficient firm. They share their expertise and their experience to help you build that additional capacity in your firm so that you can really start to focus on your bigger goals. Their 5 tips cover building a proactive, visible plan for your workload, standardizing your BAS process, demanding tax workflow efficiency for your clients, no matter what cloud platform they're using, eliminating, simplifying, and automating processes, and then earning your fees, not chasing them. So again, using automation to make sure that you're getting paid on time, that you're making it easy for yourself and for your clients. Now, you can download that ebook completely free at intuit.me/smartwork, all one word. That's intuit.me/smartwork. We'll send you a link to it in the email following this webinar with a recording of today's session. A very quick plug as well before we get into some Q&A. So we have QuickBooks Connect coming up in Las Vegas this December. It's an amazing 3-day program full of educational sessions, inspiring keynotes. We've got people like Serena Williams, who has just retired from the Grand Slam circuit. We've got Malcolm Gladwell, renowned author, and we're offering the chance for people to win a fully expenses paid trip to Las Vegas, 2 passes to QuickBooks Connect, 5-star accommodation, the whole deal. All you need to do is make a lodgement in QuickBooks Tax powered by Lodgit and tell us in 50 words or less what you loved about using QuickBooks Tax. So you can find out more at the address on your screen. That's intuit.me/connect in Vegas. If you just visit our website, you'll see a banner on the website as well that will take you to the competition entry page where you can find more details about entering that competition. Right, finally, now a lot of the automation tools that we covered today can be found in QuickBooks Online Accountant. QuickBooks Online Accountant helps you run your practice like a pro, track all of your jobs, record where you're spending your time, send out your fixed fees, pay your team, even manage your own books. It'll help you to build those automated workflows. And it features a client dashboard that Tish talked about before that lets you clearly see the status of all of your clients, all of your jobs, all of the work that's going on in your firm, not just for clients that are using QuickBooks Online, so that you can quickly see which clients need attention and which ones are on track. Signing up for QuickBooks Online Accountant gives you automatic access to the ProAdvisor program tools, training, and benefits to help you grow. The best part is it's free to join the ProAdvisor program, where you'll also receive access to QuickBooks Tax powered by Lodgit, which will help you breeze through your BAS and tax prep and lodgement. You'll also receive access to QuickBooks Payroll to pay your team and a whole bunch of other benefits. You can find out more about joining the program at intuit.me/pro-perks. And again, we'll send you more information following today's webinar. Okay, let's get into a bit of Q&A. If you haven't had a chance to submit your question, jump into the Slido panel now, but we'll jump in and get cracking on some questions. And at this point, I'll invite Denise, Tish, David, and Sapan from our customer success team onto the call, and we'll jump into some questions. Thanks all. Tish, I might start with you. You talked about those templates that you can set up for client communications in the Work tab in QuickBooks Online Accountant. Have you been using the Work tab to manage projects or to assign work to others in your team as well?
Well, as mentioned early on in the presentation, the workflow was something that I started using very early on in my practice. And about 2 years ago, I reassessed my business goals and the structures that I've had in place. And I asked myself, where do I really want to go? And once I had a clear vision of what I wanted out of the future, I then looked and said, well, the current toolbox that I have, is it going to get me there? And because I was looking to expand, but not just expand my revenue, I also wanted to expand into cross-border activities into other countries. I realized that I needed to put that foundation in very early on. So whilst I was using the workflow in QuickBooks, I realized that my needs were starting to evolve into much broader perspective. And so I looked for a third-party app that could help me put that structure in place and build on what I had in QuickBooks, and then support my growth in terms of both revenue as well as location. And so I implemented Carbon within my firm, which is very similar functionality to what you'd get out of QuickBooks, but I was looking for growth, so I went to something a bit more technical.
And I guess that's a great part of it as well. You can start small with the tools in QuickBooks Online Accountant, and then as you grow or as your needs become more complex, you can look at tools like Carbon, which are fantastic and really kind of help you take things to the next level. Denise, you were talking about invoicing and payment reminders. Can you talk a little bit about how that saves time in your work, in your week?
Absolutely. So by setting up the invoice reminders, it's a set and forget. So QuickBooks actually just send out the reminders as based. You can dictate when you want the reminders to go out, and they will automatically go out. Now, if you threaten debt collection, QuickBooks won't do that for you. So you will actually need to follow through with any threats of debt collection. We'd love the program to do that for us as well, but at this stage, you still need to follow through. It's amazing how much time that it does save. And again, when you're showing your client how simply the mobile app is to use to create a sales invoice, then that you can see how quickly it is for them to get paid with the reminders as well. So it's definitely a save timing feature.
Amazing. Tish, you were talking about some of those repetitive processes that are kind of ideal candidates to automate. And I guess I'll open this up to you as well, Denise. But Tish, starting with you, what are some of those ideal other candidates that you might not have touched on today, or some of those ones that you started to automate initially?
So I will say if you're just starting to approach automation and workflows within your firm, it can be a little bit overwhelming because you actually don't know something's repetitive until you've done it like 2 or 3 times. So sometimes it's time consuming to identify. Or you might think, oh yeah, this is a repeating task. You build a workflow and you're like, oh, actually, I'm not doing that anymore. So I spent all of this time. So if you're looking at implementing automation and you want to identify the processes within your firm to start with, to start testing it out and see if the functionality actually works for you, I always recommend start off with something that's compliance driven. Because someone else is driving the requirements of what you need to do, the process is going to be standardized and repetitive. And a key one to this is anything that's tax related. From a tax perspective, there are certain things that are mandatory we have to do. Anything that's financial statement related, anything that's VAS related. And the one that then people don't generally think of, if you are an ASIC agent and you are doing the annual company review, that is something else that you can start with. So really just look within your work and your service lines and ask yourself, who's driving the requirement of this? If there's a third-party compliance, then you can say, okay, that's something I'm going to look at automating. When you're comfortable with those processes, and you'll find even going through that, you may identify other areas within your firm, and then you might go, okay, let's put that on the whiteboard as something that we need to tackle once we've done with these first 3 processes.
Amazing, thanks, Tish. Denise, did you have anything to add on that point?
Yeah, thanks, Grant. Well, we pretty much get our clients to do all the receipt capture for us. So ideally, we'd get them to use the app where they can. But if you're dealing with a client in hospitality where they're turning over a bunch of receipts, then obviously we're not going to get them to use the app for that. So we'll probably put them on Dext, which is a lovely receipt capture app. Again, it's all about time and doing things twice. People that know me know that I hate doing things twice. And I put a post up on the QuickBooks page last week. I actually put my firm onto Logit. So we did our first bunch of IASs using Logit for the last compliance. And I don't know why on earth it took me so long to implement Logit. It saved me so much time. And I was ringing my business partner in Melbourne, and I was just going, we need to get on this. Just hurry up and put some clients on there, because I knew how much time it was going to save. So, I mean, I know a lot of people saying, come on, Twigs, why is it taking you so long to get onto Logit? It was just one of those time factor things. And I've been in the industry for a very long time. A lot of our systems have been embedded for a very long time. So it just probably goes to show, take my advice, guys, look at what you're doing yourself, because we like the idea of, we thought it was okay to take 7 processes to get a BAS signed in and out of the ATO portal. That's not okay. That is the absolute waste of my time and of my business partner's time. So we could have, just by using Logit ourselves, and I know that I've been ramming on about it with the VAS industry for the last couple of weeks, really massive time saver. To me, that'd be my big takeaway from today, is so dictaphone your quote to your clients and yourself, and also putting your firm onto Logit. And the beauty about Logit, doesn't care what levels you're using, but the sync between QuickBooks and Logit, it's just so streamlined and seamless. And it's free for us ProAdvisors, which is even better.
Exactly.
We like to save space.
And I think that's one of those things we hear it so often, that people have their existing process, they're comfortable with it, they know that it works, that it's not going to break down, even if it is taking those 7 steps. They've seen that, yeah, okay, look, there may be a better way to do things, but I just don't have the capacity right now. And it's really that piece around, okay, it might take you a little while to understand a new tool, to upskill in it, to learn it, but once you do, it's going to create that capacity going forward for you. And yeah, great point to kind of highlight again. QuickBooks Tax powered by Logit is free for ProAdvisors in the ProAdvisor program. So jump on our website if you haven't had a look at that. It also gives you the ability to send unlimited e-signature requests with clients as well. So Tish, you were talking about that's something you use quite a bit, e-signatures to get documents signed off, back and processed.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, it also keeps an audit trail in the background. So from a compliance perspective, and it date stamps it and time stamps it. So being an ex-auditor, I just absolutely love that. If I ever have to be reviewed, I know everything is stored electronically and centrally within my tax software. And Denise was talking about implementing Logit. So I was actually one of the early adopters to Logit. I think I was one of the first things I subscribed to after QuickBooks within my firm. But I have come across, I do assist many accountants and bookkeepers with implementations in their own firms. And I think one, because humans, we just resist change anyway, it can be quite challenging. And two, not everyone has experience with implementation when we start talking about connecting third-party apps or looking at your tech stack. And so I would say if you are that professional that's looking at your tech stack and going, well, I potentially want to implement Logit, or I want to improve my tech stack to support the growth of my firm, take a step back and ask yourself, what does implementation look like to you? What is successful implementation, and what is the time frame you want to achieve? And I think it really helps being realistic about those items, because that will essentially determine the success or failure of your implementation. And then the other thing is speak to other accountants and bookkeepers who are using the software, ask them about their thoughts, what are the efficiencies they have achieved, and also what are their recommendations for implementation, because chances are they would have done an implementation at some point and would have had some hurdles that you could probably learn from.
Definitely. A bit of a follow-up question on that one. We've got a question from Stacey that was, if we did use Logit for BAS, can you also send it to a client to sign? And then once it comes back to you, where is that stored?
It's all stored within the software. So once the client assigns, you will get an email notification to say it's been successfully signed, and you can click on the link and go in and successfully queue that up for lodging with the ATO. If you ever needed to access that again, it's stored digitally within the software, so you can download it, print it. But I would recommend, again, going back to what workflow looks like and trying to achieve that standardized process, covering off on your compliance, etc. I've built it in as part of my workflow that my client gets a copy of that signed return once it's been lodged. And that's across the board, whether you can IS, BAS, or tax return. We send off that signed copy. I do use something called the client portal, and that gets stored in there. So, because I know if I email it to a client and it's 3 months later and they need it because they're doing some financing application, it's always easier to ask me or one of my team members to send them a copy than to look into their email. So I've built in a client portal into my workflow, and they can just go and access it from their own client portal. It's stored there until forever and a day, until I close off that portal.
Another follow-up question we just had on that, and you can download those signed copies from Logit as well if you need to store it somewhere else, email it to another client. Definitely.
Personally, I mean, I wouldn't download it and store it somewhere else, because if we're looking at it internally within my firm, again, that's an extra 2 minutes task that I'm building into my workflow. I would probably just say download it and send it off to the client. For me, that happens through their client portal. But trying to store it centrally on your cloud drive, I can understand the rationale behind that, But then you also need to ask yourself, why are you doing that? Is it because you just want the sanity check of everything's in one place? Or is there a real efficiency to be achieved? Because my entire team would have access to Lodges. So if they needed to download it, they know where to access it. So I don't need to build in that extra 2-minute step into my process.
Awesome, thanks, Tish. David, I might ping this one to you. We had a question from Suzanne about the automatic generation of those monthly payroll reports. And you may not know the answer to this one, but in terms of finding out more information about QuickBooks Payroll powered by KeyPay, where could Suzanne go to get some more information on that?
Look, the best place would certainly be to start on the website through the support tab. But look, certainly when questions get specific, and if you've got something that's relating to a specific client, simply give us a call. Look, we have that great service of support, advisor support, who specialise in payroll based here in Sydney. So I think we'll get on the phone if it's something that you can't find, if you look through the support system and type it in to see if there's any support material there. But yeah, feel free to give us a call.
Brilliant, thanks, David. So just looking quickly through the rest of the questions, we're pretty much bang on time. There was a slightly technical question here, which we may or may not be able to answer, but let's give it a go anyway. So in QuickBooks, do you need to add a payee always? When you're coding a transfer or a bank transaction, do you always need to add the payee? It appears on the books review screen. Anyone want to put their hands up for that one?
Yeah, I'll jump into that one, Grant. You do. It's up to you guys. So it's really, it's a personal choice. If you have payee, it will come across into books review. If it doesn't, so again, as I mentioned in my quick area on books review, if you want to minimize what you're reviewing, yeah, it will be. And that could just be an old rule that you've got in there. So it'll pick up when it's missing a payee. Yes, that's an absolute yes. You need to go in there and have a bit of a tidy up. You can ignore it. It's up to you. So books review is just there to go, hey ho, have you realised this one doesn't have a payee attached?
Brilliant. Thanks, Denise. Okay, we're pretty much bang on time. So I think with that, we'll have to wrap things up. I'd just like to thank Tish, Denise, David, Safan for your time today, for helping us out with this, sharing your expertise, and obviously everyone for joining us on the webinar today. I hope you got a lot out of it. As I say, we will send you a copy of the recording so that you can take another look at it. We'll send you links to all of the products that we've talked about, from QuickBooks Online Accountant, QuickBooks Tax powered by Lodget, to QuickBooks Payroll powered by KeyPay, as well as a link to that ebook, which kind of downloads how you can actually use automation, the steps to take to really use automation to build capacity in your firm and build a more efficient firm. That's it from us. I hope you got a lot out of the call. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks, everyone. Bye.